Hey guys, so as you could tell from the time that this review is being recorded, the reviews themselves are going to be a little late. But yeah, as you can see, I've got my computer back. You won't have to deal with the awkwardness of seeing my of seeing me in those awkward positions like recording from my laptop. But yeah, the just know that it's back. Um, so jumping right into this in this chapter, there's a lot to unpack honestly with this chapter, and I'm not sure if I'm even going to able to cover it all. First, let's talk about Marco's little memory of Whitebeard talking about how the Red Line used to be a land of gods long before the Holy Land of Rejua, which for the most part kind of checks out from what all we know and what was established. So that in itself, it just feeds more into the idea of the celestial dragons being false gods. But immediately after that, we get a mid-battle conversation between Queen and Sanji, which brings up the possibility of Sanji being something called a Lunarian. So with that, I feel it's safe to say the Lunarians are not only the gods in Whitebeard's story that existed long before the government, but that they're more than likely the main race of people and the society that existed during the Void Century, but were wiped out. But we're defeated by the government. Now, how this fits in with Sanji is that I don't I don't think he's necessarily a Lunarian in the literal sense, but more of an actual in the sense of like being an actual god, obviously. Because with Oda, he does. I don't think he goes literal with that shit. He just alludes to like the concept in itself. But I think I think I think what Sanji is that he's a descendant of the Lunarian people, and whatever powers the Lunarians had is whatever powers or whatever the Lunarians were known for is starting to awaken within him. I think like Sanji himself says something weird is going on with him ever since he put on the raid suit for the second time. So I think the raid suit is almost awakening his Lunarian heritage or something like that. And of course, with this being the case, this in itself also kind of connects the Vinsmoke family to the world's history, and that they themselves have a connection to the Lunarians. For a lot of the Vinsmoke family's connections to the the world and its history and all that isn't just surface level of just being a royal family. That they probably were at one point connected to the Lunarians. They probably were like of Lunarian heritage or something like that. And but even more than that, though, the other thing to talk about with this is that if the Lunarian power is rooted in the fire, the ability to fire that Sanji is known for using in his ability, is Sanji is known for using in his techniques, then that in itself also I think also solidifies that I think King might also be Lunarian because he himself has basically similar substance of fire like coming out of his body. So I think both whoever the Lunarians are, King and Sanji I think are the key people in order to keep focus on because of this. Um, Now, with that said, we see Hyogoro and Kawamatsu watching Zoro's fight with interest, and how there are all these similarities between Zoro, the French Old Lord, Old Lord Shimatsuki Ushimaru, and Shimatsuki Ushimaru's descendant Ryuma. Which, yeah, the latter is definitely the bigger reveal to talk about. But the thing is, I'm not sure how to feel about this, honestly. Like, I'm not sure how to specifically. I don't know how to feel about all these connections being made to these two people back to Zoro. I mean, it's one of those things where I like the idea that his battle with Ryuma was the start of a long journey that ultimately led back to Wano, and that he's sort of like the carrier of Ryuma's will, I guess. But I hope that's all Oda's doing because I really don't like the idea that's being suggested in this chapter of Zorro actually being being related to Ryuma and the Otsutsuki family, like, because I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing to nitpick, to get hung up about, but in some ways, if that is what Oda's doing, and he's tying the Shimotsuki family, Ryuma and Zoro together as family, I don't like that because I feel it kind of strips Zoro of a certain sense of individuality. I mean, don't get me wrong, Zoro will always be Zoro regardless of whatever like whatever further context we get on his backstory or anything like that. But tying him to Wano in this way, I don't know, it just feels too easy. And honestly, I don't know how else to explain it other than it just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry if there are people who disagree with that, but it just feels off to me. I don't know what I don't know why, because Zoro's techniques and all that, they are rooted in Japanese and samurai culture, so I guess it makes sense. But I don't know, something about that just feels off. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, obviously the big thing, and I do mean big thing to talk about, is Momonosuke has definitely had a grow up and glow up moment in this chapter. And even though we only see him in dragon form, there are teases to the idea that his grown-up human self does resemble that of Odin now. So a nice way of bringing the idea full circle of Odin's legacy being what may ultimately free Wano from Kaido's grasp. But also, it's kind of ironic in the sense how the very smile fruit in itself, Doflamingo made to give Kaido power, or what made to give Kaido the power of his army that he has today, is what may ultimately be his undoing. Like the same smile fruit he's been feeding to his men is what may ultimately help in spelling his destruction. And honestly, I am more hyped for an all-out dragon versus dragon brawl between Momonosuke and Kaido right now. Like I genuinely want to see that happen now and what the battle is going to look like. I mean, honestly, Luffy will still ultimately be the main focus of the one who will fight Kaido, but just imagine what Momo's going to contribute to the dynamics of this fight is just too hyped for me right now. Also, I kind of like how despite everyone panicking, Luffy could still recognize Momonosuke instantly despite his giant evolved dragon form. Like it's worked so well, at least more and definitely more than I thought it would. Um, and like it shows, and that in itself it shows just the kind of just how strong the bond between like Momonosuke and Luffy really is. Like, but they formed a bond where even though Momonosuke's different, he can Luffy can still recognize him, and I just love that little detail. And yeah, honestly, the one thing I'm overall happy by, but didn't mention last week, is that for however mixed I am on the Zoro and Sanji elements of this chapter, I do like how the fight between them, King and Queen, did continue on. Because if they were defeated like last week's chapter, and then and there in last week's chapter, it would have been a little underwhelming. So I'm just glad we're getting more out of those fights specifically. And yeah, as I said last week, but I'll say it last week, but I'll say it here again. Seeing Perospero getting his ass beat, creamed, and reamed through the ringer by Sulong Nekomamushi is just delicious. But add on top of that, Inuarashi going Sulong against Jack, it feels like everything is coming together. And honestly, that is what worries me the most, because Oda has this the thing is, Oda has this talent of making things feel too good to be true, only to pull the rug out under our eyes, from under us. So the only question I've got is what he's got planned next, because I posted this question on a YouTube poll about how many chapters on a YouTube on someone else's YouTube poll about how many chapters people think are left of Wano, and they're saying the responses I've got seem to be in the general area of 20 to 25 to 30 to 35 to 30 to 35, and I'm going with that 30 to 35 right now at minimum, because we still and because the thing about Oda that's been remaining consistent is he is meticulous in how he writes One Piece. So just to go with that, it's it's one of those things where even though it looks like we're nearing the end, I think Oda still has a lot more to go with us. Like I think by the time One Piece reaches its end of like I think by the time One Piece like reaches like chapter 1035, I think that's going to be the end of like this like phase or this act, so to speak. And then like next year is probably going to be when we enter a new act, I think. So yeah, but the only question is what other major events Oda's planning that's the question we need to ask, and I got no clue right now. But I'll be still interested to see where it goes. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and on Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dead Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.